Welcome to the Rich in Purpose Childhood Trauma Summit. Today I'm here with Ericka Kelly. Ericka spent years leading in the U.S. military and now leads a powerful mission to help adults heal so kids don't have to repeat the same story. Here, her Rebels Playground is a generational project turning recovery into meaning, courage, and lasting legacy. Ericka, thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me here. I am very, very excited.
Well, I'm excited to hear a lot about your project that you have going on as well. But Ericka, you're on a mission to protect the next generation. Tell us what in your life gave you the passion to make heroic kids a reality.
Yes, it's interesting, Jamie, that you say next generation. Quite a bit I talk about changing ourselves first, right, from the inside out, in order for us to be effective at changing that next generation. But for me, if I may just share a little bit of how I define trauma, how I was ashamed of sharing my trauma, and how embarrassed I was by it, and the freedom that came after being able to be strong enough to tell my story. Most of the time, and thank you for mentioning the military, most of the time when I talk about my story, I talk about my mother abandoning myself and my two brothers when I was 5 years old, and her closing the door, right? Putting us into the little shack in Central America, Guatemala, where we lived, and closing the door from the outside and leaving. And what she left behind is three little kids. But for me, as the oldest, 5 years oldest, for me, realizing that I couldn't get out, realizing that I needed to take care of my two brothers, realizing somehow, somewhere, we know that I was in danger. We were in danger. I can tell you this right now. I literally thought that we were going to die. At points, we were there for 7 days. So different points of those 7 days, I felt excited because someone was going to rescue us. I felt excited because we were going to get out. I also felt helpless, and I also felt hopeless. All those emotions, driving that 5-year-old brain and body.
Yeah.
And I share this, Jamie, And I also share how my grandmother rescued us after 7 days. However, uh, that is that is where I move on to, the scars that those 7 days created in my young brain and body. However, there's more. So I want to say thank you to you. Thank you to you for having this 14 days. 14 days, and I'm going to say experts coming into your audience, sharing this with your audience, because trauma, we still put trauma a little bit to the side, like, we see it, but let's just not talk about it. So if if you would allow me, Jamie, to be a little bit raw in what I'm going to say to you and to your audience, so you can understand my goal, my mission, what's driving me, right? What's driving me to help the military? What's driving me to help women? What's driving me to help professionals? What's driving me to help children, the next generation? And that is that when my grandmother rescued us from that shack, this is what my grandmother had to do to help us and to survive herself. She would tell us, the three of us, we are going to someone's house, usually a family member. We're going to go to that house. And what I need the three of you to do is to be quiet. And if you are asked to do something, you do it. Don't let me down. And grandma would walk us to different family member houses to ask for a piece of bread, a little bit of food, maybe a little bit of money so she could feed us. Mm-hmm. When we were in those houses, Jamie, there were three male cousins of my mother who every time, not once in a while, but every single time that my grandma took us to their house, they would pick me up, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, pick my little buddy up and say, we're going to take Ericka out to play. Mm. And they would take me out of the group, and those three men, family members, would take me to a bathroom, to a garage, to a room, and do whatever they wanted to do with my little body. Mm. And I said nothing. And to a point, and maybe we can talk about it as this conversation keeps going, but to a point, I had to normalize it in order to survive. In order to survive. But this is the thing that is very clear in my mind. When my grandmother and the three of us would be walking back to the little shack and the muddy roads that we lived in, I would look over and I would see that my mom had a little bag with some bread, with some food. And part of me, to rationalize how horrible I felt inside because of what just happened to me, I would rationalize it and look at that little bag that my grandma carried, and I would say, I helped her. Mm. I helped the family. I'm still helping my brothers. And I rationalize it as whatever was happening, whatever those three men were doing to me, I even though I was so young, I just said, that's the price. That's the price that I need to pay in order for my grandma to be able to take care of us. So that is a foundational piece of my story that I do share it. but I don't share it often. So that's why I am saying thank you to you for allowing me the opportunity to um, just open that window a little bit in my life.
Yeah. Well, Eric, a couple of things here that, when you didn't say anything, right,
Mm.
and you were a part of the family, uh, you felt that you were keeping yourself safe from maybe not from going hungry, right? If you didn't say anything about the family members that were doing those things to you, and you rationalized that your family wouldn't be hungry if you didn't say anything. Is that right?
I think that that is exactly part of my uh, normalizing the situation.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of I had zero control, right? I had zero control of what was happening. I had zero control of where my grandma would take us. We got very direct instructions on you do what they tell you to do, right? So I thought I was being obedient.
Mm-hmm.
And when those things were happening to me, uh, I just kept thinking, right? Like you just said, I need to be quiet because if I'm quiet, we're going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. Yeah.
Well, and you already experienced someone leaving, right? Your mother left, and now you're with your grandmother. I mean, I would assume that the thought of being abandoned again, if you said anything, would reoccur. Instead of really kind of imagining that your grandmother might help you, you imagined that you could be abandoned again, so you just didn't want to say anything, and that's the way you feel.
Yes, I mean that's interesting that you say that, Jamie, because I not that you say that, I do think and believe that yes, the primary person in my life, my mom, leaves. Now I am in the care of my grandmother, and what I want to do is um to please her, to serve her, to be accepted, right? So if I say anything, or if I say something and she can no longer have a relationship with those people that she's asking for help and have been helping her, then there, I mean, I'm giving it names now, but as a 5, 6 year old, I'm sure I didn't have a name for it, but I would have then been the cause of her breaking a relationship with family members. And maybe I'm the one that would have been blamed. Because at that age, I didn't know if they were doing something wrong or I was doing something wrong. Or I just knew that it didn't feel right. But I didn't know the boundaries of what is right or wrong.
Yeah. Well, and I've been to Guatemala. I actually had some parents there. Our brother-in-law's parents lived there for a few years, and we'd go there
Nice.
for Christmas. And I'm going to ask you a couple questions to follow up on that. But
Of course.
you probably had a mindset of scarcity, even though you may not have known it being a 5-year-old. But I know in Guatemala, it's like America, right? There's food and there's things everywhere. But in Guatemala, that's not the case,
No.
right? So if your mother struggled to get food on your table and stuff, and then you left, I mean, I can just imagine just the scarcity that was embedded in you as a 5-year-old, and especially if your grandmother did said, "Oh, don't say anything." Tell us a little bit about, I'm going to kind of go into your future a little bit here, if you don't mind, Erica.
Mm.
That how did your relationships with men? I mean, you actually, you were a leader in the military, which you're surrounded by men.
Yes, yes, yes,
How
yes.
did you how did you adjust yourself so that you felt comfortable around men, that that your relationships with men had to be strained when you were growing up? How did you
Mm.
how did you how did you kind of transform into where that started as a 5-year-old kid to now an adult who has a chance to date, get married, have children? how did you transform into having, I guess, a good relationship with men instead of that abandonment issue that happened with your mom, the the sexual abuse that happened with your family? How did you adjust all that to become the person that you are now?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for that's a great question. Yeah, I sometimes I tell people that in Guatemala, growing up, not when I was in the shack, but also in the shack locked up, um, my brothers and I would sit on the floor and eat ants and the dirt that came with those ants, because we would have a meal, maybe once every 2 days, maybe once every 3 days, right? So that scarcity mindset, um, for sure, it was ingrained in me. And also the you need to be safe because you never know the predator has a friendly face, right? The predator has a friendly face. So once the three of us were brought to the United States, and we made that trip of walking those 1,500 miles to get to the United States, then something clicked, or if I can switched on, however you want to say it. But I knew, Jamie, that I needed to do two things to start this new transition. I was 12 years old. So now I'm 12, but I still have the programming of that 5-year-old. Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes. And but I knew two things. Very quickly I knew this. I needed to learn English and I needed to get an education. Mm. And in the process of doing those two things, obviously not perfect, really not perfect at all. However, I was very intentional at making one step forward. It didn't matter how painful that step was to walk forward, I was going to make it. However, did I make a lot of mistakes? My goodness, I made a lot of mistakes. I found significance. I found success. I found a family in the military. I found success, significance, and purpose, uh, being also in law enforcement, working cases of human trafficking and human smuggling. So it's almost like all the pieces of the puzzle come together, right? So two different careers that kind of blended in, where I was able to be very effective, very productive, and significant. Significant to me in my self-growth and development, but significant to others as I'm navigating um, government agencies and also the humanity side of what I was doing. But that was not your question. Your question was my relationships with men, right? Um, Not so good, Jamie. So this is confession time, right? Because I didn't have a father role model. I didn't have a marriage model. The only thing that I have had as a model in front of me is abandonment, abuse, um, extreme poverty. So I did not learn how to have a normal relationship with a man. The only thing that I knew about men is that I needed to be quiet and I needed not to move or do anything and allow them to do whatever they wanted to do to my body. And when they were done, I could breathe and then try to have a normal whatever. Mm. So from a professional perspective, having a relationship with males did not affect my psychic. I was able to be professional, be a peer, be a friend, uh, be whatever I needed to be that special agent or to be that sergeant, that chief, or that advisor, right? And be surrounded mostly in those two careers, be surrounded mostly by men and feel, believe it or not, feel this sense of belonging and feel a sense of safety because that's what Homeland Security gave me, and that's what the military gave me, sense of security, which I always was looking for as a child. Now, let me then shift to Ericka in her personal, not career very well, personal way of selecting her mates, of selecting a male partner. So, three significant male partners in my life. The first one I met when I was 16 here in the United States, homeless in the streets of Las Vegas because when my mom brought us at the age of 12, by 16, she was done with me and kicked me out.
For the second time.
Well, the first time she abandoned me, right?
Okay.
The second time she takes me to a country that I don't know anything about. And the third time she kicks me out to the environment. Yeah, yes, yes, yes. However, Ericka doesn't know anything, just like I said. So I meet someone that is 32. I'm 16, he's 32 years old. And I find that he's going to be the support, the protector that I need in order for me to continue with my education. I mean, education was always at top of mind. However, this gentleman was a predator. So for I don't know, I can't even tell you, Jamie, but I met him when I was 16 and I was able to break off the relationship at the age of 26. And for those years, I don't think I spent a day without some sort of bruise on my body. So he just yeah, I sometimes I tell people that with him, the control was so good. But I again, right? I normalized it. I don't. If you would have said, Ericka, how can you live like that? I'd be like, live like what? Because to me it was normal, right? Um, I would have to get up in the morning, grab a glass of water. That's all I was allowed to have in the morning. And then I would say, sir, right? Sir, not husband, sir, can I eat today? What do you want me to wear today? My hair was long, black. That was cute. That was cute. And and I would say, how do you want me to wear everything? He controlled everything. And he didn't have to be in the house. If he gave me instructions in the morning, you don't eat today because you're too fat, and my body type has not changed, but you're too fat, you're this, you're this, I wouldn't do it. So I was able, as I'm growing and gaining awareness and thinking, I need to break this pattern. It's like, what's going on, right? Generational craziness, right? I break from this very aggressive, very violent environment to jump into the second relationship. And the second relationship was with someone that was very kind, very gentle, very compassionate, very loving. And I thought, thank you, God. Right? My protector, what I've been asking for, what I've been looking for, I finally found them. Well, he was nice and kind and loving to multiple other women. So talk about then my self-esteem, my worth, my value, in which my mate needed to go find someone else because I wasn't enough. So it reinforced everything. So with the first one, he was treating me bad because he said, "You deserve it. You're making me whatever." So I'm like, "Yeah, I'm the bad one." So okay. With the second one, he reinforced the abandonment. You're not good enough, so I gotta go someplace else to find what I'm looking for. And then the third one. And the third one was an individual who was very independent, a visionary, outgoing, loved adventure, right? And I'm like, yes, I found him, right? And I think that I would still be with him, Jamie. However, he was hurt in the job, and because of his pain, he was given medication, and because of that medication, he became addicted to that medication. So now this adventurous, visionary, loving, giving man, very generous man, then he became suicidal, homicidal, and I again was again in this weird cycle of surviving for my life. And so I give you those three examples because they're three completely different personalities, three completely men, I mean, different men, different types, different faces, different ways of them growing up. But the end result for me was the same. So, what's the common denominator? I'm the one that picked them, right? I'm the one that said yes to them. So again, you and I are coaches. You and I have a background with the Napoleon Hill Institute, but you and I also have other certifications from other programs, from other experts. And the more I learn and the more I get to know me better, and the more I find files and I go, oh, this is why, right? How can I change it? How can I break it? How can I teach the next generation that because of this scar, because of this pain, because of this program, the only thing you have is this happens, you do this, right? Back and forth, back and forth.
Right.
And then I'm here to tell you that I at a completely different position, different level of awareness when I look at a personal relationship with an amazing man, uh, equally as I see a relationship of collaboration with anything related to a career or work in a professional setting.
Well, I mean, I think the one thing that you have to say to everyone, right, is you have to be aware of the situation that you're in. And the
Yes.
only way that you can change is to get new information in your mind. If Zig Ziglar said, if the information you put into your mind is new, you'll make a new decision.
Mhm.
And one thing I kind of want to ask you is that because so many times we repeat the same things. For instance, the gentleman that you met originally, right, not that good, treated you bad,
Mhm.
and then you go back to your childhood where your mother left, and then your grandmother said, "Make sure you do these," and then your three relatives sexually abused you. But so many times, Ericka, we end up with the same person. But the next person, and you almost done three totally different people.
Right.
How did you how did your mind, I guess, go from, because typically we feel safe in that environment because you don't know, this new person, we don't know what it's going to be. So I know if this person, he may be a little mean to me, but he's not going to kill me. He's going to feed me and do those types of things. How did you get from three totally different people in your mind and feel safe in each one?
Well, at the beginning, I felt safe. At the beginning, again, if I look back, right, this is many moons ago, but if I look back, what I have always wanted, right, if I go back to that 5-year-old child, what I always wanted was for someone to protect me, for someone to make me feel safe. So at the beginning of those three relationships, I, yeah, it was an overwhelming feeling of that is the individual that is going to protect me. That's the individual that is going to make me feel safe. And the key component here is something that you said about the more we are willing to learn, the more we are willing to accept new things and start thinking differently, the more we are going to be able to go, wait a minute. I don't think it's right for you to, violate and hurt my body the way that you are. I don't think it's right for you to demean me and reject me as a woman by having multiple affairs. I don't think it's right. But it's I mean, for at least for me, it was a process of growth, a process of learning, and if someone has gone through trauma and they get out of it really fast, hallelujah. Hallelujah. I'm just sharing with you that my journey has been long. However, I have not stopped making one step forward to make myself better and to share my journey so I can help someone else that might be going through a similar, it's never the same, but a similar situation, and prevent that next generation to maybe be courageous enough to say, hey, I have a voice, can I say something, right? And or catch themselves sooner and get out of a situation, because you're 100% right, Jamie. When I was with, I call him, I mean, I shouldn't call him that, but I do call him my abuser, in kind words. Um, uh, I truly did not know that what he was doing was, I really did not know that what he was doing was wrong. And he's like, don't tell anybody. I, hey, I have that program not to tell anybody, right? So of course I didn't tell anyone. And yeah, and when he said it's, who's going, and he would say this, Ericka, who's going to want you but me? So you need to be grateful that I can put up with you. You need to be grateful that I feed you. You need to be grateful that I give you a roof. You need to be, and do you see all those statements were reinforcing whatever programming I received as a young child. So I never challenged it until I did, right? Until that knowledge base and that awareness started shifting, and my conscious started then uh, pushing new information into my subconscious, so my subconscious could have different options on how to accept something.
Well, I'm going to get into what you're working on now in just a second. I just have one more question for you because this is very interesting for me. But so many times, Erica, we don't do things because being in a childhood trauma effect, we don't learn to love ourselves.
Mm,
So many, like I can read something, but unless I take action to do it, it's just knowledge.
sure.
So, but you studied and you've learned and you've grown into this person. How did you take the courage, I guess, to love yourself enough to say, if I do this, I can create a different life?
Mm.
instead, because, a lot of times we just say, well, this is the life, maybe so many times, this is the life God gave me. This is who I'm supposed to be. And you don't learn to love yourself. So I'm very amazed that you're doing the things you're doing and you've learned to love yourself. But how did you do that?
Yes, I think that sometimes I get asked, how did you get so far in the military? Right? Or how were you so successful in law enforcement? Because they're looking at the end. They're looking at the end, kind of like the end of a career, end of a road. Um, and I share with people, and I'm sharing it with you and your audience, that what helped me was at the beginning to get rid of me, get me out of the way of my progress. Because I had all the conditioning, I had all the no's, I had all the limitations, I had all the walls, right? All that were, I'm not denying those walls, but they were trying to protect me. So the first steps, at least for me, to start looking, um, let me go back. I never, Jamie, everything that I just shared with you, everything that I share with you,
Mhm.
I never, like, I mean, I think this was a gift from God, but I never lost that little spark of I am worth something. I am valuable. It was somewhere, but it never went out. I just needed to make enough space for that little flame to go, yay, and grow. So at the beginning, this is what I did. I was very intentional at saying, get yourself out of the way, Ericka. Listen to a mentor. And I would find, thank God, I have had amazing people in my life. And I would find a mentor, and that mentor would go, Ericka, I see so much potential in you. I, you know, I see you doing this and this and that. I didn't see that at all. However, going back to some Napoleon Hill principles, however, I borrow their faith in me. I could see that they were not lying. I could see that they were trying to help me. And I could also feel that I was getting in my way. So I was able to do two things: be strong enough to get me out of the way, and be strong enough to borrow that hand, grab that hand of faith that would pull me just a little for me to make that step, and for me to be in a new platform, a new environment, grow, learn, and go, "Ah, it's possible." And for that individual to help me and work with me for as long as they could. And then for me to, again, be at a different level of growth. And then, again, just like everything else, if you're open for it, have someone else comes in your life and goes, Ericka, I see you doing this, this, and this. And for me to go, you do? And then for them to say, right, can I help you get there? And for me to be strong to say, yes, help me get there. And that's that slowly at the beginning, that's how I did it. Borrowing someone else's vision of what they saw in me as a person. And then I got to a point where I'm like, yes, I'm Ericka Kelly, right? And then I could champion my journey. I could share my journey. I could breathe and be, I'm faith bound, right? I'm Christian, so everything is centered to me. Then being able to say thank you to God for that abuse. Thank you for the days that I did not eat. Thank you for the days that I could smile. Thank you for everything, not some things, but thank you for everything. Gratitude for everything. And that's where I'm at now, right? A a sense of gratitude, a sense of joy that is pretty amazing.
Well, you're an amazing person just by from me getting this, but I want to say one thing
Yes,
is
sir.
that every single person, because every coach and every expert I've interviewed for this summit has went through trauma.
Hmm?
And what happened to you? What then they all say, I changed when I found someone that believed in me and that wouldn't give up on me.
Ah,
And that's what your mentors did, right?
yeah.
You found someone that wouldn't give up on you, that loved you really for who you are, and now you're off to do great things. And I have a lot of things to ask you on your current project, but
Hmm.
I just want you, Ericka, to kind of just tell the audience because the one thing is that so many times you know like the level of trauma that you went through in another country and all those things is more than a lot of us went through. I mean, trauma can be different, but it's just it's debilitating for what you do in the future, but really it's how it's like anything. How do the things that happen to me turn into be something that I can help other people with?
Hmm.
Because every coach that's a trauma coach had trauma. Because if you get a coach that doesn't have trauma, he can't take you where you want to go because he's never been where you were. So you have to get someone that's kind of went through the same thing. So tell us a little bit, Ericka, about your new project and what you're doing to protect the kids from leading the life that you led. So tell us what you're doing right now.
Right. So I'm doing multiple things. Um, I here in California, I am taking a very active steps into visiting high schools where they tag some of the students as high risk students, right? And because I'm in Southern California, some of those students are either the immigrant or first generation, not just Hispanic, but first generation immigrants. And some believe high school is not even important. What I need to do is survive, right? Because they're in that survival mode phase of their life journey. So I'm taking a very specific steps at showcasing and being very vulnerable with my story and sharing with them, this is what helped me, right? Everybody has their own journey, but I can say as a mentor, this is what helped me get through exactly what you're going through, right? Exactly what you're thinking right now. And that has been very fulfilling. But I'm doing something very new. Um, I'm going to share this with you.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to share this with you. I went to a conference maybe 6 months ago or so. And I don't know if you can read this. It says 100 children. Also, another coach, another fellow coach, gives me this piece of paper, right? And says to me, I mean, I guess coaches coach each other once in a while. I don't
Well,
know. I don't know how we do that, but we do it. Nonetheless, he gives me this piece of paper and says, write the first thing that comes into your mind. First thing that comes into my mind is 100 children. So I wrote it. I didn't even know what it meant. And then I started thinking. And as I as I was walking as a child, right, 12 years old, walking to the United States, um, eating ants, on the floor, growing up in the United States, going through some really not good things. I kept thinking, but I put it away. But once in a while, this thought would come in. I'm not going to have, how can I? How can I find a way of another child not being hungry? How can I find a way of protecting? How can I be the one that gives that protection? How can I give someone that safety that I'm looking for? Mm? Throughout my life, Jamie. But but I never put it together until Arthur, that's my coach friend's name. Arthur says, write this down. I write it down and then I go, oh, so where the 100 children comes from is that now that I have this level of awareness, I mean, I still have a lot more to go, but I'm in a really nice spot right now. This is what I'm thinking. And, you tell me or your audience tells me, but I'm like super excited about it. And that is that I want to build 2 orphanages in Guatemala where 50 and 50 children. So that's where the 100 comes from. So I close my eyes and I see these 2 establishments where those kids are going to be protected. They're going to be safe. They're going to learn to break that cycle of violence, that cycle of abuse, that cycle of having a very poor way of, instead of thinking, I have nothing, think abundance. Yeah. So that's where I'm at with when it comes to the next generation. I am thinking of a way of making that a reality. Do I know the how yet? Negative. But man, do I have the vision.
Well, a couple of things is one, I just admire, what you're doing. And it always comes to what we went through. I mean, I started Rich in Purpose because I didn't want someone that had went through childhood trauma to end up being by themselves. So I
Hmm.
started the community of Rich in Purpose, teaching the Think and Grow Rich principles so that they can see vision and go higher. But and we're setting up a nonprofit so that if someone is about ready to get their electric turned off, we're going to help them, right? Because so many times we become alone, right? When you go through things, you put a mask on, you don't want people to know about it, so you end up not doing the great things sometimes that God put you here for. And we're both in the same situation almost, is that you know we don't look at it now as what happened to me. It happened for me so that I could help all the people that God is going to give us, right? And you with your 100, and that 100 will grow into 1,000 and more, right? Because once you open the door, God wants you to have faith, Ericka, and you know this as well, is I have a vision for you, but you have to take the first step. And then
Hmm.
that door will open and you'll take another step, and that door will open and you'll take another step. So it becomes be courageous, right? That you take the step, and then sometimes you'll even look at it as, wow, that next step was a miracle happened, right? Because you actually had the courage to take that step, that first step. So Ericka, we have to wrap it up, and I'm just so grateful and thankful that you told your story, because so many of us, we can look at, oh my gosh, I went through all of this and I just don't know how to get rid of it. And we're both kind of the sample that if you learn new things, learn to love yourself and take courage to do things, then you have the potential to live any life that you want to live. So I'm going to ask you, Ericka, that I know that you need funding probably to help with your 100 people. How can someone get a hold of you to say, look, I believe in your vision and I would like to help you? How could they do that?
Well, anyone can connect with me through LinkedIn. And also maybe visit me and send me a message through my website, erickakelly.enterprises.com. And and it's just to build a relationship. It's to like you said, it's important for all of us, and I want to say all of us, to understand that we're not alone, to understand that some people are behind us, mm, and some people are two, 3 steps ahead of us, but we're not alone. And sometimes the easiest way to deal with things is to isolate, because that's my thing, right? And say and think and just create our own story of I'm alone, right? Or no one would understand. And I think that you and I and everybody else that you have uh, in this 14 days of goodness is that everyone is sharing with your audience that it doesn't matter. Please hear me, right? It doesn't matter what your situation is, what your condition is, what your situation is right now. All that doesn't, I'm not saying that it's not your present, because it is, but it doesn't matter to create the future where you find yourself at a place that you love, right? What would you love out of life? And if you can close your eyes and say, I would love to feel healthy. I would love not to feel this anger inside of me. I would love to, whatever you would love. I think you are saying it with everyone here, but I'm saying it right now. You're magnificent, and everything that you would love is possible.
And again, you know that you're worthy to,
Mm.
because a lot of times people will dream, but they think, and then they'll have friends that are trying to say, you're right, that's too big for you to think about. But so, love yourself, get a mentor, get in a mastermind, and know that, like Napoleon Hill, if you believe it, and you can see it, it can come true. So just believe that you're worth it, that once you get the vision, right, then God will put people into your life that can help you. But if
Mm.
you don't have a vision and you just wake up every day and go through the same patterns, then you're right, life won't change.
Right.
But if
So
you get a little bit
is
new,
that, yeah, it's that action. We need to have all those things. We need to have that mentor. We need to have that awareness. We need to have all that knowledge. We need to read all those beautiful books. Yeah.
yeah,
However, I promise you, nothing is going to happen unless we take action and we take that one step forward into what we want.
you know, I used to listen to a lot of Dennis Waitley, and he said, "There's educated derelicts on every corner." Right?
Amen.
If all you do is seek information and you don't take any action with it, whether it be 8 years, 2 years, 1 year, whatever, you're going to be in the same place.
I agree.
So believe in yourself, love yourself, find you a mentor, get a mastermind, and then the world is your oyster.
Yes,
But
yes, yes, yes.
Ericka, thank you so much. I mean, I think that just your story and to see where you're at now, and
Thank you.
it's not unusual that you're helping people in Guatemala, right? Because that's where your trial started.
Yes.
So I'm this is the first time I've ever met you, but I admire you, and I think that
Thank
you're
you.
going to do great things. And I think the story that you told our audience today is just like, wow, if she did that, then I can do it too. So I thank you for your inspiration. I thank you for what you're doing with your special project in Guatemala. And I'm just grateful and happy and grateful that I got a chance to meet you. Thank you so much, Ericka, for being a part of our summit.
Well, the pleasure was mine. Again, I am I got to, or I have to uh tailor sometimes where and how I share my story. And so Thank you for allowing me to be vulnerable, and thank you for allowing me to share little pieces of my life with your audience. So I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
The one thing Brene Brown says, if you're vulnerable, the vulnerability is your superpower. So if you'll become vulnerable, that becomes your superpower. And again, more doors will open for you. So thank you again so much, Eric. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Thank you.